Hello YouTube. This is my very first YouTube video. Actually, it's more like my third, but the first two went a little long because I can be a little bit long-winded, and I'm doing it again, so let's just move right along. I decided to create a YouTube channel and to start making my own videos because over the last few months I've gone through some pretty traumatic experiences that have really kind of changed my life. It's given me a new perspective on life and who I am and how I feel about myself and how I view myself and all of that, and I feel like I really want to share it with people because now I can relate to people on a whole new level. I'll kind of just start at the beginning of that. I just kind of want to use this as sort of like an introductory video to what I'm going to be doing and what I'm going to be talking about. Obviously, I'm going to be talking about my life. I'm a Gemini, so I'm pretty unpredictable, but for the most part, I want to be talking about one subject. Recently, I got out of a 10-month relationship, which probably doesn't seem like that doesn't seem very long, but that's the longest relationship I've ever been in. It was a pretty bad relationship. I won't go into it, what was bad about it or what went down, because there's always two sides to every story, and he's not here to share his side of the story, so it's not fair for me to talk about it. But I will tell you that every bad relationship will lead to an even worse breakup, and this definitely did. It, led to two pretty traumatic emotional breakdowns for me, which is why I'm here. The first one happened in June. I just want to be completely honest, get it out there. The first one happened in June. I attempted suicide in June. And I've dealt with depression and anxiety for most of my life. I grew up gay in the South. I grew up in southern Arkansas, pretty close to the Louisiana border. I'm in Seattle now, which I love. Seattle, I wouldn't be anywhere else. I came here 2 years ago with my friend from college, and I kind of took a leap of faith. I sold everything I owned, my car, my furniture, everything. I came with an air mattress and clothes in her car, and I haven't talked to her in a while. I hope that she's doing well. She's brought me to the most amazing city in the world. But anyway, back to the subject that we're talking about. So in June, I attempted suicide because of the breakup. You have to realize that even though I've dealt with depression and anxiety and all of that for most of my life, I've never dealt with kind of grief like I dealt with when I lost my relationship. And so it was a very new experience for me, and dealing with the depression and everything that I already have. I kind of view depression and anxiety like a disease, and it's something that now I work on every day. It's something that I always have in the back of my mind before I do anything. Like, I have to think about triggers for me, like things that'll kind of set me off or make me depressed, which is not where I ever want to be again. I will tell you, the first time that it happened, I had an overdose of prescription medication and alcohol and ended up in the psych ward. My roommate found me, and I ended up in the psych ward, at the hospital, the ER, and then the psych ward for a short period of time. My wonderful friends and co-workers were there to rescue me. My dad came the next day. He flew in from Arkansas, so that's one good thing that came out of it. I got to spend a whole week with my dad. We've never really had that great of a relationship, I feel like, because I always thought that he was a little bit more conservative than he actually is, and we really got to kind of bond, I guess. And so that was a good thing. It was a really great week. Afterwards I was still very much in pain and all of that, but I got to spend time with my dad, which was good. I always tell people that it's like my Britney Spears moment, you know, when Britney was like drug out of her house on a stretcher and all of that, and she shaved her head. She had lost it, but it was her dad that came to rescue her and kind of got her career back on path and took care of her. And that's what my dad did for me. He came here and almost kind of rescued me, and that's what I think dads are supposed to do. But the second time, yes, it happened twice. The second time it happened was not as pleasant. That was more of like a wake-up call for me. I ended up back in the psych ward, and they weren't as nice to me. I was strapped down to a bed basically all night, and my wrists were actually strapped so tight that I literally could not feel my hands for a week after I got out. When they finally let me out, nobody came to rescue me. I was there by myself, and when I got out, they just let me walk out of the hospital by myself, and I got outside and I started to feel really faint, and so I came back into the hospital lobby, and I vomited on the floor, and then I passed out in my vomits. And you have to remember that they wouldn't let me out of my room to go to the restroom, so I was covered in my own pee. So a person who is passed out in their own vomit, covered in their own piss, that's kind of a wake-up call for somebody. And I feel like, you know, I've kind of woke up. I've you know, been in therapy. I've on a medication now that works really great for me. And I also have really focused my attention on kind of the relationships that I have around me that are really, you know, valuable to me. For example, my roommate, like, who's my best friend and who's, you know, totally there for me and takes care of me and all of that. We've spent the last 3 days together. We went to IKEA. We went to the hardware store to fix the furniture that we bought at IKEA. We you know, went to Walgreens at 2 o'clock in the morning because to go see some boy that I've been not stalking, but, you know, he's like, I just wanted to see him because he's cute. But he doesn't even work there anymore, so it's whatever. But yes, so my point to all of that and what I plan to do with this video is to show off my newfound happiness. I'm just happy. I love, you know, my friends, my family. I'm trying really hard not to be a flake, and, you know, if I make a commitment to somebody, to actually stick with it, to not put my emotions into other people's hands and kind of feel emotions that based on the way that they respond to me and the way that they communicate with me and all that. So yeah, and I also wanted to show you that I have love on my arm, and it looks backwards there, but it's really actually right. This is more like a mirror sort of effect. And I have love on my arm because there's an organization that I've actually been involved with recently called To Write Love on Her Arms. And it's about suicide prevention and, you know, helping people who suffer with depression and all of that. You know, there's always hope, and you have to learn how to look at yourself and say, I'm beautiful. And that's something that I've learned to do. My motto for life now is, you know, you do you and the rest will fall into place. I think that people, well, not people, but me especially, you know, have jumped into relationships with guys that had major issues and weren't even willing to get to know me and I wasn't willing to get to know them because I had so many problems before we just jumped in headfirst into a relationship. But, you know, you have to learn to love yourself. That's something that I'm learning to do. I'm getting to know myself. I'm getting to know my friends, my family, and my coworkers, and having a really good time, I guess. And I just want to keep everybody back in Arkansas up to date and tell everybody that I'm in love with me now. So I'll see you in the next video, I guess. Bye.